Hi there, thanks for coming. It's great to have you, whether you're an entrepreneur looking for some resources on my website, or you're someone who's potentially interested in having me come speak at your event. It's great to have you. Now, if you've read my work before or you've seen me speak at an event, you might know that my work and focus as a professional is really study of the entrepreneur journey. And what this means is really asking the question of how do people all over the world build businesses, whether it's in technology, in civic services, creative fields, even the sciences, or any other variants. What are the differences and commonalities between them, not just in how they start or who the entrepreneur is, but the tools they use to mitigate risk along the way. And here's the thing, I've been asking those questions now for 10 years. I've been studying the subject for a long time. I've built media companies, I've built educational technology companies, I've had agencies, and now my company, Growth Mechanics, actually has taken this to the next level, where we literally help organizations like Google, like the Unis Social Business Foundation, and many others build international entrepreneur training programs so that we can help as many entrepreneurs as possible with what we learn, but at the same time be absorbing and researching what does work with entrepreneurs in markets scattered across the planet. But the real question you want to ask is, well, great, what are the learnings? What are those commonalities? What are those risk mitigating factors or those personality traits that enable an entrepreneur to reach some kind of success, regardless of the industry, the focus, the vertical, etc.? And so that's what this page is about. This is why I do speaking, is so that I can try and share this with as many of you as possible. And if you're an entrepreneur, you should sign up for the resources on the homepage of this website, because this is an actionable toolkit that you can use that's based on these very same learnings. But if you're interested in having me come speak at an event or work with a group of entrepreneurs, the best way to do it is to have me literally show up in person and walk you through what we've learned, how we've learned it, why we've learned it, and how those individuals in that room at that time can take those learnings and use them for themselves. So if you're interested in what it's like to have me come speak at your event, not just speak to you here on camera, the following clips are some sample outtakes from some time I spent with the hosts of StartCon, which is the world's biggest growth hacking event. So if you're interested in learning more about that topic, please stay tuned. And if you'd like to get in touch and have me come to your event, please scroll to the bottom of this page, fill out the form, and we'll be in touch with you as soon as we can. Thanks again for joining me here on EmilLamprecht.com. It's great to have you. Talk soon.
Okay, cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about growth mechanics.
Sure.
Tell me where you kind of came up with that term, what exactly that is that. Maybe explain to the audience a little bit.
Sure. So everything that I just explained exists as sort of one bauble, if you will, under the growth mechanics umbrella. We do a lot of different things. We have a data set, we have services for accelerators, and we also have our own sort of EIR group, so our entrepreneur in residence group. So we grow various different products under our umbrella. But growth mechanics, despite its total lack of public face, because we never really felt the reason to build one, is really been a representative of our work for the past 10 years, which is just an obsession with the entrepreneur journey. Mm-hmm. And just literally the question of, okay, Silicon Valley, good or bad, thinks and touts that it's all that, right? So, but entrepreneurship is not theirs. Entrepreneurship and startups, depending on your definition of startup, is a global thing. It's in many cultures, it's inherent to hundreds of years of activity. So are there, and if so, what are the similarities and the tools and things that effectively mitigate risk and help growth take place in startup or entrepreneurship for everyone from the high-tech, high-growth startup in Silicon Valley all the way to the potato farmer in Albania who wants to develop a social impact business? That's been the question. What are those consistencies? If you can find a correlation between those, right, like that, obviously there will always be outliers, there will always be extremes you can't touch, but that means generally you can make an impact on, say, 98% of entrepreneurs, regardless of what they're trying to do. So that's what we've always been after.
Have you found some of those consistencies?
So Silicon Valley will always, basically, Silicon Valley always balks at this idea, right? To say, oh my God, like, to say that a high growth technical startup has anything to do with a potato farmer in Albania, like, the truth is that if you put in place the correct tools, if you put in place the correct analyzers for personality, for sort of from a behavioral psychology point of view as well, yes, there are actually a huge number of similarities. Those similarities culminate for us, into series of tools, into series of experiments, into series of ways of helping people, both we as individuals to our entrepreneurs or to the many entrepreneurs that we mentor, but also building that into the models and services that we build for sort of impacting entrepreneurs. And the way that we facilitate that is by trying to work as often as possible with organizations that already touch lots of entrepreneurs. So that tends to be why we focus on working with accelerators, university programs, anything that is actively trying and developing deal flow of entrepreneurs to then help them be more successful. We try and help them realize that there are key things that are consistent that they can use. A lot of the time they're not using them. And we can help inform some of that. And that, because we're constantly researching, thus being here, those things change and mold all the time. And that's part of the advantage, right? Like, we're not looking for a fixed solution. We're not saying that there's a religion to follow. We're not trying to necessarily brand sort of a philosophy, like lean or anything. Lean is a branded philosophy, a religion, basically. It encompasses this huge bubble of things. There are elements of lean that are totally crucial to what we're talking about, whether or not they were lean before lean existed. But those things change all the time and subtly are modified as we go through this process and as we add new markets to our research and everything else. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. That's a lot of emails. These emails all have to be relevant in different ways. But it basically is to say that, okay, because it's a launch, that means this product is not currently available. It means it's available here and only here. Now, if you really like evergreen marketing systems, this is an example of one that you can use as long as it's like a single point of sale interaction with that user. So it's one point of sale interaction. The other context where this is used is info products. Info products will use this to launch an info product, say 2, 3, 4, 5 times a year, but no more, right? The product is only available for that period of time. A lot of companies will also just use this for what it's for, which is launching a new product. And this works in basically phases. So phase 1 is info on purchase. So this is basically a lead to this. All right, this is to say, this is what's going to happen. At this particular point, this thing is going to become available for you to buy. It's going to be relevant for these particular reasons. And in between now and then, I'll explain it a bit more. Okay? Then it has this whole section here, which is, say 3 for now, which is education. This is basically, should just be copy designed to educate the user about why they're considering making this purchase. Okay? Now, to understand this, you need to go back to the study part of it, which I'll come back to, which you mentioned, which is you have to understand what they need to know to make that decision. That's obviously a big component. But so it goes info, education, and then you go basically, depending on who you ask and whose blog you're looking at, you'll go setup, pre-sale, sale. And then you might have like a last minute call thing as well here, like a mini one. Setup is basically going to say, so now that you know this compiles this information. So this is the story loop, right? So it basically says, okay, all 3 of these had information. This is sort of the concise rundown of what that means for you. And be ready, because we're going to start selling this soon. Pre-sale basically sets up the sale. So this is what the commitment looks like. This is how you buy. This is when you buy. And sale is then the push, the actual decision. Okay, so this is called a launch sequence. This is also called nurturing or a lead funnel in the email marketing world. We use it on a lot of different stuff. It's a very good tool. It's a tool that's starting to get used a lot. So in another year or two, it probably won't be relevant. But for now, it's super lucrative for the right situation. But here's the thing, right? Like Career Foundry, we've got to be selling all the time somehow. Okay? We also have to try, if we wanted to do something like this, we would also have to try and understand what this all has to be. And we've been having Skype calls, but we're realizing if we can't close the Skype calls, we probably don't understand that anyway. And plus, it's only supposed to sell at either a particular interval or to individuals, and we're trying to create bodies of students. So none of this connects, right? So there's an email relevance here in terms of getting information to the people, but how could that actually help us? And so where we step aside, and I mean, this will all sound, since none of you really know what a launch sequence is, the whole funnel looks revolutionary now, but launch sequence is not that new to the world. But you have to take into consider that to get to even this, much less the next level, which is where we got to, is you have to understand deeply who this person is and why they're making this decision, right? So that sounds obvious, but we talked a lot about growth mechanics. We talked about our study of the entrepreneur journey and some of the consistencies across global entrepreneurship. I'm going to finish explaining this funnel, but literally 99% of what we do at Growth Mechanics is teach people to ask the right questions. If you're interested in understanding how to grow a business, that is the only skill you really need to get right. The rest, the growth hacks, the technical tools, the sort of solutionist abilities you need to develop around certain problems within a business, these are completely secondary to being able to deeply understand why that person won't cross that threshold. And to do that, it's not just feedback. Okay, there's a big difference between feedback studies and behavioral studies. If anyone has spent any time in sort of user research or conversion rate optimization, you might know this, but for those of you that haven't, there's a big separation, right? So we not only need to understand why people that did buy bought. It's not just the question mark here. It's we need to be able to extract information from them here, and actually we need to know what they're thinking here. And if we can understand that, all of those phases and the consistencies across it, we then understand what we have to talk about to help them make this decision. So regardless of the sort of, however cool I think the Career Foundry sales funnel construction is, this is really all you need to take away. I could stop here, and that is the greatest value that I can offer you. But because we're nerds, we're going to finish the story about Career Foundry.